Welcome to our 1 year review of our full-time travel life.
Woohoo! 1 year! I think we
baby.
need to celebrate with a kiss. Or like a lot.
So, we went ahead and polled some of our followers for questions. We're going to go through, say who asked us and what their question was, and we'll give it our best answer in the midst of all this chaos, which is called our life.
Yeah. So this is travel raw.
My favorite experiences and places are usually things that have to do with being outside or with animals. So manta rays in Bali was huge highlight. Seeing dolphins in Hawaii, boating along with my kids and my mom, that was just amazing. So we went to 2 kikak dances in Bali. Bali being our first international location, this was like our first sort of major cultural thing, and the first one we went to, we lost all our footage, but it was at a temple. It was like supposed to be pretty legit as far as like they do this to support their village kind of a thing, and so it was really intimate and small and in this temple under the moon, and it was just mind-blowing. But I just had this moment of like, my life is so different and it is so cool. I think another one was in this last couple weeks we've seen elephants, and that was like a little piece of my soul I didn't know was missing. Like to see them, you know, you go to the zoo and you're like, I see an ear. Oh look, it's eating. You know, like to be able to go and touch and
hey,
talk
look, there's
to.
another elephant butt.
Exactly. Oh, I see it in the cage. You know, like nothing. It's nothing like this. Like to go and touch them and talk to them, it was like a little love fest. Like I just loved the elephants, and
That's really
it's moments like that where you're like, totally worth it. I do it. I do every single hard moment for one of these, and we get them, you know, on a fairly regular basis. So that's really cool. As far as favorite places, I loved Bangkok. I have loved Thailand. I think it's my favorite country. Not just because we're here right now, but because it's kind of like a mixture of a lot of things that I love. You can be outside, it's chill, it's affordable, it's so kind, they're so humble, they're hardworking, and they just like accept our kids for being kids. It's no big deal, you know, and it's a beautiful place. I love it. And a lot of that exists in Bangkok, but you still have all the amenities of a huge metropolis. Yeah. You can find anything, you can buy anything, you can do anything, and then you can drive an hour outside of Bangkok and find just these magical things like floating markets and safari zoos, and I just was like, I love this place. I know I'll be back to Bangkok. The shopping also, like Chatham weekend market.
When we finally settle down, we're gonna like have to get a shipping container and just come and just like load up, because it's like legit.
Oh, it was so much fun. So Bangkok's probably my favorite city, but we also loved Singapore. We loved Singapore.
Such a clean city. We could live in Singapore.
Oh, easily. We could, yeah.
We've walked your town, said pleasant things. I wish the ground would swallow me. Love of mine, run from me. Save your love and better company. Love of mine, run from me.
Next question. Do you teach your children about the different religions that you encounter?
Kara Parker. The answer is both yes and no. Do we teach them a little bit about it? Yes, from the standpoint of we want them to respect the beliefs of others, not be, foolish or prideful or disrespectful in their activities. We try to respect the traditions to the extent that we feel comfortable and are willing to do that. But honestly, because we don't believe in these other religions, it would be akin to someone who is not a part of my faith trying to teach their children about what I believe, right? So it's one of those things where out of respect, I try not to ignorantly go through and teach what I think they believe.
We ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, we ask questions. We try to be respectful. We try to understand what they believe in, and we enjoy listening, and we enjoy helping our kids to understand and try to be respectful, both about what we believe and they believe. And so they're walking away with an understanding that there are many different belief systems in the world, and that we have our own belief system, and invite others to participate in that. And likewise, we shouldn't be afraid to hear or, where appropriate, participate in these other activities out of a sense of respect.
Yeah, like our driver in Bali, we spent a lot of hours with Margie.
Margie, we miss you.
And we talked to him a lot about the Hindu religion and why do you make these offerings and where and why are they all over the house and the religious ceremonies and holidays. So we have learned a lot. And then again in Bangkok, we talked to our guide about the Buddha, and we were able to put like gold leaf on one of the Buddhas and find out that the Buddha is a sacred image. You really shouldn't take any pictures or do a tattoo, or like it's a sacred thing. So we definitely do. One thing that's difficult about the speed of our travel is I would love to like immerse our children in knowledge before or during a location in that place, like language practice and history and religion, but we just move too fast. If you had maybe 3 months, you could do that. But when you're in a place for 2 weeks, you're barely keeping up with keeping everyone fed and working, and that's a downside. That's something that makes me sad. So, for example, we've booked 2 months in France for the end of this year, which we haven't announced yet. So you're the first one. But knowing that, we have started learning French. We're hoping to just have at least minimal conversational French. And we're watching little French cartoons, and we're going to learn about some of the cultural aspects of France. So we'll be better about that. Honestly, it's been kind of like we're barely keeping up.
Well, we're kind of getting our feet under us now.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Okay. Next one. Oh, the Chang Gang, who I love, also another digital
Hey, Chang Gang!
Have you had any bug nightmare stories? So, thankfully, no. The closest I got, I actually just posted about, which is probably why she's asking this question. When we did go to a village experience here in Thailand, we showed up and we're sitting in this big room, like a big sleeping room that's next to our host's house. And I'm sitting there talking to someone, and I can see a giant spider across the room. Sort of like I wasn't going to bring it up. I was talking to other people who weren't spending the night. I was spending the night. And I was like, I'm just going to like watch him and see if he moves. He was legitimately like the size of Chris's ear or bigger.
That's massive.
For a spider?
I got Dumbo ears.
Big. And then eventually someone walked in and was like, like one of the kids, and so then my kids saw it and they were like, oh, and we went and asked our host, and he was like, no big deal, no problem, it plenty in my house. And I was like, okay, and he was like, they eat the flies. And I'm like, okay, all right, okay, like I can go with this, all right,
Look, nature has a way of thinning out the herd. And it's like having a fly trap.
So we left it. Then our friend Danny shows up to pick up her friends who are leaving. I'm spending the night with the kids. She comes in, she sees it, she goes, oh, we gotta get rid of that right now. She's like, Atid! And he comes in, he's like, no, Danny is fine. She goes, Orakai! Which is his wife. And she comes in, she's she's like, you want something done? You ask the wife. So, because of that, my children actually did have nightmares that night. Grant had a nightmare about being covered in bugs, and like at 2 a.m, he woke all of us up. There's a bug on me! So I turn on my cell phone flashlight. I'm like, there's no bugs on you, you're fine. But I had to give him melatonin to go back to sleep. So other than that, we've seen quite a few. We've had a lot of geckos in Bali, some centipedes.
Yeah, geckos make noises.
They make funny noises.
Yeah, you never actually see them make the noise, but they make noises.
A lot. Like, they have conversations with each other.
I don't remember seeing centipedes.
I had a couple centipedes in the sink in Bali.
Oh.
Yeah. He's grossed out by bugs. So we've seen quite a few rats, which I think is pretty normal, and we've been told
Rats
they're
are
like
disgusting.
all over Paris. So we're prepping ourselves for that. We would just watch Ratatouille with the kids in preparation for
can't
France.
Get over that.
And now when we see rats on the street, we're all like, Ratatouille!
The kids are like, Ratatouille. I've had to be like, "Ooh, don't pet the rats.
Don't
go for
not
the
our
rats.
friends.
No bueno. No bueno.
So thankfully, no, we haven't been bitten, or we've seen snakes, but only like on a hike. So we're going to wrap it up now with a last question from both the Lost Bells.
Ooh. Sorry, I worked last night.
I already said that one time.
I know, but I gotta make sure they include it.
So Heather Oglieve, I'm gonna say these wrong, and we'll put them on the video. But she said, which location did you find communication to be the most difficult? And then the Lost Bells said, what cultural differences have been the biggest and the hardest?
Big communication difficulties? No, not really. The largest communication difficulty we had was in Hong Kong. We had a large group of taxi drivers. When I would ask if they would take us places, they would just say no. And I didn't realize until later that it's because there's a group of taxi drivers that just don't leave their own island, because Hong Kong's like a group of islands. And so that took a little bit of some getting used to. As far as cultural differences, honestly, there's a lot of like minor cultural differences, but nothing that can't just be learned and moved on from. Like, really, it hasn't been difficult. And I imagine this is way different if you're going to like a Middle Eastern country, or maybe a country that's more remote. But to be honest, people are very welcoming. They're very kind. Even if they have their own cultural norms, they are very patient in like teaching you what they believe is right. So if you can just be humble and kind of adapt to it and be a little uncomfortable, or a little comfortable with being uncomfortable, then honestly it's a breeze. You just kind of like meander through them. Before long, within like a week, you know what to do. You know how to work. You know how to get around, and it's chill.
Yeah, I would say if people are in the tourism business, so if you're going somewhere where tourists go, they make a large effort to learn English, and it's just been easy. Like whether they're serving food or driving cars or helping you at the airport or helping you at your hotel, they know basic English almost everywhere. The hardest city for me was Taipei, just because the signage had no English for the first time. And so I could walk down a big, busy street with tons of retail shops and know nothing of what those shops held. And that was hard because Google Translate works a little bit. It doesn't work that well, but you can always buy things. Like you can always gesture at things and say how much, and then you hold up the bills and they'll tell you how much, or they'll show you a calculator. They do that for us a lot. So none of that is difficult. It could be a little difficult if you're looking maybe for like a doctor or something specific, but in that case we can just ask our Airbnb host because they speak English.
And many of the doctors have been trained in English countries. Mm-hmm. So we went to a dentist and he spoke great English.
In Bangkok, yeah. And in Hong Kong, we went to an orthodontist.
Yeah, that's right, orthodontist.
So communication has not been that difficult. Culturally, no, we just love... Harry, thanks for the kisses. Careful. We love the cultural differences. That's one of the highlights of the trip, is exposing ourselves and our children to things that are different. So kind of like what Chris said.
I see you guys.
Oh, good.
Yay.
Can you not talk?
Okay, we're gonna finish up, so no talking.
So if you're out traveling, to embrace the cultural differences. If anything, it just energizes you. It's really not difficult.
Okay, it's been a year. It's been totally incredible. We've loved it, and we've loved everything we've experienced, and it's life-changing. And after a year, what I've realized is I just now have my feet under me, right? We're just now at a point where we're like in a routine, like we know what to do, we're chill, we're going from country to country without problem. It's just been easy. It's now at a point where it's easy. So if anything, I'm more excited for the next year than I've ever been about anything we've already done. And there's a few places I kind of wish we could go back to, and probably will, just to re-experience it with new eyes.
Yeah, that's very true. And I would just say, I'd reiterate that, saying if anything, we're more excited and way less hesitant. I don't think we have any hesitations or fears about continuing to explore. I think we came to what for me was probably the most intimidating part of the world first, and I've fallen in love with everything. Everything. I could live in any of the places that we've been and be great.
Right.
So we're super excited to keep adventuring with our 5 kids, showing ourselves and them the world. So make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already.
Subscribe.
Follow us on Instagram. I would also just love to say thanks for following along with us. It's been truly rewarding to be able to share our story with more than each other. And learn from you guys and grow and be able to see other people be inspired to do things out of their comfort zone. So we love you lots. And we'll
Love you
see ya.
lots. See ya.
I'm finishing my cracker.
Finishing my cracker. Finishing my cracker because it's so very cool. Finishing my cracker. This is what Dad's saying when they're bored.